When I initially began this internship, I was excited to see what I could learn and who I would meet that would help me in any way bring light to a social issue I am driven by, which is how the criminal justice system has major effects on families, children more specifically. I feel strongly by this subject because I was one of those children who grew up most of their lives without a parent due to incarceration. I do not believe that criminals who are parents should not be locked up, but I do believe that there are certain justice policies which unproportionately target minorities, as well as conviction rates being higher for those demographics. I aspire to one day have a nonprofit organization that supplies these children with mentors, counseling, and life coaches. I will not only provide these kids, but all inner city kids with networking in the areas they find most interesting, whether it be music and sports or investing in money marketing. I believe there is too much wasted talent in the community and that today's youth get too distracted by unproductive trends and information. With this internship occurring during a presidential transition, with much of the campaign focusing on immigration and policies surrounding children's rights to a better life, my focus all of a sudden changed when once again I was witnessing children of all ages locked in cages and separated from their parents. It hit me harder knowing that these children were being kept in facilities right here in San Antonio, and there was nothing I could do to make them feel safe or to reassure them everything would be okay. I connected with my mentor, Antonio Guillen, who was covering these migrant children and the circumstances surrounding them, to ask him if he had any sources whom are advocates for these children. Without delay, he knew exactly who to connect me with, and that was Rosey Abuabara. Rosey can be considered one of the loudest voices advocating for these migrant children and the conditions in which our government is housing them. I reached out to Rosey for an interview. She agreed to the interview at first, but later admitted that the questions I asked began to bring back memories, which brought on so many old emotions that she was unsure she would be able to elaborate on her answers without getting too emotional. I apologized to her for bringing these emotions and memories back up, but she understood that I just wanted to bring light to these social issues just as she did, and she agreed to email me her responses instead. These are the questions and her responses. What are some of the long-term effects that migrant children whom come to this country for refuge may face in the future by being detained, separated from their parents, and deal with possible abuse while in custody of the government?
Some of the long-term effects that migrant children, refugees, may face in the future is distrust of Americans or U.S. citizens. They have already gone through so much on their journey to get here, only to find that upon arrival, they are arrested and treated just as badly here too. The idea that the USA is still the land of opportunity and a melting pot has long been untrue, but it still sells to desperate people. Both children and parents who were separated by the government at the border will also have lots of anger, even if they were reunited and allowed to stay, which is highly unlikely. Family separation is completely unnecessary, where cruelty is the point. It's doubtful that many of these families will find each other, since many adults are flown by ICE and just dumped and left as prey. It is heartbreaking to think what the children who are allowed to stay will go through when they learn the truth of what the country did to their parents and family members. There will be much sadness and anger, confusion to learn the truth. Will the U.S. be ready to deal with this? Highly unlikely.
Why do these migrant children need the backing and support of individuals like yourself?
Migrant children need to be seen as human. They need to be seen as children. When I learned that children were being put in cages and were living in inhumane circumstances, I decided to stand for them, first and foremost as a mother. I could not imagine my own children or any children living in these horrendous situations. I started volunteering with the Interfaith Welcome Coalition at the Greyhound bus station once a week in San Antonio. I needed to verify the date, but probably 2018. I'm fully bilingual in Spanish with an emphasis in Spanish medical terminology.
How do you propose the government intervene and fix this immigration issue?
The government needs to hire tons of caseworkers. The majority of the children have family here. Category 1 children have a parent here, and Category 2 have extended family, such as a grandparent or a sibling. Again, most come with phone numbers. In my dealings with the witness at the border, I've learned that they are easy to vet over the phone. I've stayed involved with the witness at the border because they have been the ones who have most helped me heal from the trauma at Carrizo Springs.
What can the community do to support these children?
The community can help by supporting and generally accepting these children as our own. Some are taking the necessary classes and vetting so that they can volunteer with Catholic charities. Thank you, Israel Gonzales, for the opportunity to speak about the importance of migrant children in our community. Let me know if you have any further questions. I overheard many conversations the women, mothers especially, had about having faith again in humanity. We met them at the door of the bus station and helped them orient themselves, gave them backpacks, helped them understand their transfers, and taught the children to help their mothers. Handed out over-the-counter meds. These children that are coming in alone need to see that concern and care too. They need to see that people are not the government, that many of us do not subscribe to the cruel policies. We acknowledge it is wrong, and we prepare to do what we can to make it better. For my part, I noted that not many Mexican Americans or Chicanas were present. Perhaps it's because most are working, perhaps 2 jobs, and don't have time to volunteer. I never had time to find the answer to that question, but I knew my presence there was important because I could easily be mistaken for one of them. And it seemed that we all knew that. It eventually evolved into it could have been me sending my children with a family member to the U.S., and all I had was a phone to connect us and faith that God would keep them safe. Yes, I got arrested, put into jail, but I remember thinking while in jail for 24 hours that I was pretty privileged because I was in a big jail cell with only one other person. I had a working toilet, sink, and shower. The food was good, although at first I refused to eat it. The jail cell was very cold. It reminded me of how the women called it La Hireria. I was sure my husband was doing everything in his power to get me out, but these children have no one. Their families are afraid to come forward for fear of getting caught themselves. So it is up to individuals such as myself to back and support them.